So today, if you look at the canon of American literature, Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God is an absolute pillar. But for decades, it was basically buried. The book's publication pretty much destroyed its author's career. So this is the story of a masterpiece that was silenced and how it fought its way back.
Right, let's just dive right into this, because it's a genuine literary mystery. The journey of this novel is, no joke, just as dramatic as the story it tells. And it really makes you wonder, how does a work of pure genius just fall off the map, only to be resurrected generations later and become required reading in schools?
And I mean, the contrast is just staggering. Back in 1937, some of the most powerful Black literary voices of the time completely dismissed it. They even called it minstrelsy, a label so toxic it effectively ended Hurston's career. But now, it's celebrated as a foundational feminist text and a true landmark of American fiction. So what on earth happened?
To really get why this novel was so rejected, we first have to understand the absolutely brilliant woman who wrote it, and the world that just wasn't ready for what she had to say.
Zora Neale Hurston was a force of nature. A trained anthropologist, a major player in the Harlem Renaissance, she was totally dedicated to documenting and celebrating Black folk culture. And get this, she wrote this entire novel in a mind-blowing 7 weeks while she was in Haiti. And yet the backlash was so fierce that she died penniless in a welfare home and was buried in an unmarked grave. I mean, what a tragic end for a true literary giant.
The novel itself is all about one woman's epic search for her own voice and her own identity. Her name is Janie Crawford, and her whole journey kicks off with a single powerful vision.
This one moment basically defines Janie's entire life. She's lying under a pear tree and she sees a bee and a flower coming together in this perfect, harmonious union. And that right there becomes her lifelong benchmark for what love is supposed to be. Not about control, not about security, but about a beautiful, mutual exchange.
You see, Janie's quest isn't just about finding a husband. It's for something much bigger, self-actualization. She's searching for spiritual fulfillment, for the freedom to just be herself. And that puts her on a collision course with pretty much everyone around her, starting with her own grandmother.
Now, Janie's grandmother, Nanny, was a slave, and her life was defined by just unbelievable trauma. That experience shaped her worldview, which is that for a Black woman, survival means one thing and one thing only: material security. She sees Black women as the mules of the world, the beasts of burden, and she is determined to protect Janie from that fate by marrying her off to a man with land, love, or no love.
And this right here sets up the structure for the entire novel. Janie's journey plays out across 3 different marriages, and you can think of each one as a different kind of cage that she has to break out of to find her freedom.
Okay, first up is Logan Killicks. He's an older farmer, he's got 60 acres of land. In Nanny's eyes, he is the perfect, safe, secure choice.
But for Janie, it is a prison of loveless duty. Logan sees their marriage as a business deal. He wants labor, not a partner. He completely crushes her pear tree dream with emotional neglect and eventually the threat of an axe. So, yeah, she runs.
Next, she meets the very charismatic, very ambitious Jody Starks. He sweeps her off her feet with these big promises of a grander life, and they move to the all-Black town of Eatonville, where he becomes the mayor.
But Jody just ends up building her a new, fancier cage. This is the cage of silence. He sees Janie as a possession, a trophy wife that reflects his own status. He puts her on this lonely pedestal and, famously, he forces her to tie up her beautiful long hair, which is a huge symbol of her identity. For years and years, he just completely silences her.
And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful moments in American literature. After years of Jody's public put-downs, he insults her age in front of everyone, and Janie finally just snaps. She unleashes her own words like a weapon, and she hits his fragile ego right where it hurts the most.
The effect is just immediate, and it's devastating. Jody, a man whose entire identity was built on the power of his voice, is left completely speechless. His authority just evaporates, and it's no coincidence that he withers away and dies shortly after. It's like Janie's reclaimed voice literally destroys him.
So after Jody's death, Janie finally meets Tea Cake. He's younger, he's full of life, and he seems to be the living, breathing version of her pear tree dream.
With Tea Cake, Janie experiences a real partnership for the very first time. He teaches her to play checkers, he takes her fishing, he teaches her how to live. But Hurston is no simple romantic.
Even in this, the best relationship of her life, the old world creeps in. Tea-Cake's jealousy leads him to hit her, showing that even the truest love can still be trapped by patriarchal ideas. Their story ends in tragedy, forcing Janie to make one last awful choice to save herself.
So you see, each marriage was a necessary, if incredibly painful, step on her journey. Logan taught her that security is not the same as love. Jody taught her just how vital her own voice was. And Tea-Cake taught her what real partnership could feel like, but also its limits. It was all pushing her towards this ultimate self-acceptance.
But what's so fascinating is that Janie's internal fight for her voice was perfectly mirrored by a real-world battle over the novel itself, and this fight would decide its fate for the next 40 years.
At the very heart of the conflict was this huge fundamental question. Back in the 1930s, what was the main job of a black artist? Was it to create protest art that exposed racial injustice to a white audience? Or was it to affirm and explore the richness of black culture for a black audience?
And the two sides were clear. On one side, you had Richard Wright, who was the leading voice of what they called protest fiction. He believed literature had to be a weapon against racism. And he absolutely savaged Hurston's novel. He said its focus on relationships and its use of black Southern dialect was a kind of minstrelsy that played to white stereotypes. Then decades later, you have Alice Walker on the other side. She argued that just affirming the inner lives and culture of black women was, in itself, a revolutionary act. She saw the novel as creating this powerful, self-contained black cultural universe.
For a very long time, Richard Wright's view won. The book was forgotten. But thanks to a new generation of black feminist writers, Hurston's legacy was about to be triumphantly reclaimed.
So after it was published in 1937, the book and Hurston just faded away. She died in 1960. But then, and this is the turning point, in 1975, Alice Walker publishes this landmark essay that literally put Zora Neale Hurston back on the map. It sent readers and scholars scrambling to find her work. And that one essay single-handedly sparked the revival that led to the book's celebrated status today.
So what's the novel's final message? Well, it's captured in this beautiful closing line. For Janie, the horizon always represented some distant dream she had to run after. But at the end of her journey, she's pulled that horizon in. She realizes that fulfillment isn't something out there to be found. It's something you build inside yourself. It's the wholeness she's achieved by embracing all of her experiences, the good and the bad.
Ultimately, the journey of Janie Crawford and Zora Neale Hurston leaves us all with a pretty profound question. Both the character and her creator had to fight against a world that was constantly trying to silence them, and their shared story really forces us to ask ourselves, what does it truly mean to find your own voice? And what are you willing to go through to make sure it gets heard?